Hello and welcome to the Kelly and Premier League Hall of Fame inductee Wrighty show. We're going to get it changed. We're going to get it changed on your official name. We're going to get it changed on all the branding across all the channels, and that's it. Just use that all day. Is that how we're going to refer to you?
All day. Okay. My gosh.
What have we got coming up today? You still have to work.
Yes, I do.
Even though you're a Hall of Famer.
Okay. In part one, we are looking ahead to Manchester United against Chelsea this evening and what the future holds for both clubs.
Newcastle's Premier League status is now officially retained for next season. What can Eddie Howe and the club look forward to in the summer and beyond?
And Burnley are enjoying a good run of results under Mike Jackson. 7 points from his 3 games in charge has lifted them out of the bottom 3. How much difference can a new voice make in the dressing room?
Great lineup alongside us in the studio. Dion Dublin is here and New York Times journalist Rory Smith is making his debut on the show. Good luck. Ralph Rangnick has said that Manchester United must face up to the reality that their top 4 hopes have likely disappeared. But what does he hope for the club for next season when Eric Ten Hag takes charge?
Taken back by Elneny, hit by Xhaka, what a goal! What a wonderful, wonderful goal!
Yeah, we have 4 more games to play. The next 2 games are at home at Old Trafford, and obviously we will try to get as many points and win as many games as we possibly can out of those last 4 games. In order to do that, we need to play on the best level that we possibly can, and we know that Chelsea is a good team, but we also know that if we play well, that it's also possible to win the game tomorrow. I don't think it makes sense now to still speak and speculate about the Champions League. We need to be realistic. Even if we win all 4 games, it's still not in our own hands. But what is in our own hands is the way that we play, the level of our performance. And even for the next season, I think it's important to finish this season on the best possible note. Obviously, if results are not going well and we lost 3 of the last 4 games, this always means that the morale or the energy in the locker room is not as good as it would be if we had won those 4 games. But still, we have to perform. This is what we are getting paid for. This is also important for the players. They also, now knowing who the new manager will be, they have to perform and to show in front of, again, 75,000 tomorrow that we are able to beat a team like Chelsea. And this is our job. This is what everybody has to do. And this is what we're working at for the whole week in preparation of the game. Of course, it would be better if we played Champions League next season, but this also affects other clubs. This is not a problem that only Manchester United has, but I mean, the renewal of the contract of Bruno showed that it's still possible. This club is an attractive club, and with a new manager and with a new approach with the new manager and the way that he wants to play, this is still a massively interesting club, and I'm looking forward to help both Eric and the club and everybody at the club to get the best and to change the whole approach again next season, so that Manchester United can be a top club again.
Well, Manchester United can be a top club again. Manchester United fans would argue that they are still a top club who are underperforming, admittedly, at the moment. Where are they right now, Manchester United? They have a manager appointed. They have Ralph Rangnick in situ. Still not sure whether he's going to be there in a sort of director of sport capacity or sports director capacity at the time.
Where are they now? I think they're a million miles away from Manchester City and Liverpool, that's for sure. If that's the yardstick, and it's going to take them a few years to get back to that. I think that they've still got great players. The organisation, from the management level down to the manager they're picking, then the players, and it's all over the place. They've still got the same people upstairs making the decisions, whether they bring in a manager who's got unbelievable experience like Van Gaal or Mourinho. Then you've gone with the club favourite in Solskjaer, where you go with David Moyes, the new and upcoming guy. They've tried everything, and it's still not working. And now we're seeing so much coming out of the dressing room. When you say where have they fallen to, how far they've fallen, they're rock bottom right now. When Diz will help me there. And when you start getting that much coming out of a dressing room, it's massively, massively wrong. So Ten Hag coming into a dressing room, right, Diz, where you've got players who, where they're going to, even the players who leave Man United, where are they going to go? They're not going to go anywhere better than Man United. And so you look at it, Ten Hag must be now looking to play in a way where that manager could say, okay, I'll keep him, but they're not even doing that.
But I think this question of the players and the quality of those players is a really interesting one, because there are a lot of players in that squad who at times have been seen as near to the top of their field. Yeah. And yet at the moment you look at the team sheet and you think, oh, it doesn't look like a great team. But at times those players have been seen as great players. It's the performances that have kind of skewed opinions on them. I think
at times, that's not good enough for Manchester United. At times doesn't work for Man United. You have to be on it all the time. For me, if you look at those players on a piece of paper, you will go, right, okay, they should be in the top 2 or the top 3 in the league. Just by the players you have, the quality that you have. Unfortunately, there's something wrong in the dressing room. There's something wrong behind the scenes. There's something wrong on the training ground. And nobody's had the answers to that as yet. And I don't know it's not the quality of player. There's something wrong. And like Wrighty said, when things start to come out, that's even worse. Because you know that you haven't got that togetherness in order to achieve.
But partly it's the fact that there are good players there. There's maybe not quite as many really good players as we think. I think there's a lot of players who are trading on reputation.
Well, this is what I was going to say. If we reassess them based on how they performed at Man United?
Yeah, I think we all retain the right to change our opinions as the facts check. But, you've got Luke Shaw and Jadon Sancho, and, there are top performers. Rashford's in a difficult part of his career, and that's fine. He's entitled to go through difficult times. But throughout, even when they finished second last year, that squad didn't make any sense.
No.
The Ronaldo thing's become a bit of a red herring almost, that no one's saying that Ronaldo's a bad player or that he hasn't contributed massively, but he changes the way that everyone else has to play, and Bruno is the clearest example of that. And what they need more than anything is a look at the squad to try and make it have one kind of coherent vision of what sort of football they want to play. But
Rory, does that make the surroundings, everybody around Ronaldo wrong? Then are they not able to deal with Ronaldo, you know what I mean, being there? If he goes into a football club and he makes things better by being the best in the world and making everybody else's standards higher, does that mean the people around him are thinking, oh gosh, I've got to go into work and eat this, and I've got to go into work and score every time? I can't see that being a bad thing.
All that broccoli.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
The thing is, you know that, Diz, to answer that question, what they say is when you've got great players make other players. That's what makes you a great player, is that you make other players around you perform at a certain level. Yeah. And we cannot question what Ronaldo's done at Man United in respect to the goals he's scored. And if he weren't there, you don't know where they would be at the moment. But let's face it, those players are not performing any better with arguably one of the greatest players in the world in that team. That still comes down to, for me, the coaching and the structure, the system. What system? I saw them play against Norwich a few weeks ago, and going into the game, they had so many offensive. They have all the offensive players. They had literally them all on, and I thought, this don't look right. Who's going to defend? It's just like he's literally just gone. Just go out and just go and beat Norwich, and Norwich nearly beat them.
Yeah,
they could have beat them. And so when you look at that, Kells, what's going to change? Okay, Ten Hag is a very good coach. I think that someone like Jadon Sancho, and fingers crossed, someone like Rashford can really flourish under him, because he does play. When I saw his Ajax team, I saw Ziyech was there, this inverted winger stuff. So you have to feel that someone like Jadon Sancho probably may thrive, and you hope he does. But the rest of that team, to get them working, and the signings that they're going to have to make, I can't see how that's going to change very quickly.
And it's the number of signings as well. I mean, Rangnick said he thinks they need 10, which is the sort of thing.
He said over 3 or 4 windows as well, didn't he?
Well, you wonder if maybe he wasn't meant to say that in public. It's just
well, he doesn't seem to be saying anything he's meant to be saying in public at the moment. He's just.
Will Man United have the patience for that? No. That's 3 or 4 windows. And remember, all this time as well, Rory, City and Liverpool are just continually getting better.
You can't stand still. Man United are too big a club to say, okay, you know what, we're going to sit it out for a year. Doesn't matter where you finish next season. We just want to see a style of play develop. Manchester United can't do that. Some clubs, Arsenal can, and Liverpool probably could. Manchester United can't. They need to be back in the Champions League.
You know when you go talking of Ronaldo, the effect again that he's had on the football club as a whole is that when you go into a football club as an individual, you go in and you find your feet, and then you get tested by everybody else in that squad to see if if they can trust as a centre forward. You know, when I signed Roy Keane, would be smashing it in, and be bouncing in. I'd have to control it, hold off Gary Pallister or Bruce, and then they start to trust you when they know that you can do that. Now Ronaldo's gone in, it's complete opposite. Ronaldo's gone in, he's been the one, he's gone back to his own, he classes his own football club, and he's now testing everybody else as individuals, and a lot of them haven't been able to handle the standards that he set. And I think that's a massive problem.
I think that, to go back to, it's a really interesting point. I think it was Xabi who said it about Lionel Messi, and said it's really hard, as brilliant as he is, it's really hard to play with him because you have to think like him and you have to be like him, and you almost have to sacrifice a little bit of what you want to do and what you think. So you're almost thinking on two planes, and one of them is that of a footballing genius, which makes life quite hard.
Yeah,
but the thing is with that, excuse me, then you feel that okay, because of the heights he's reached, we're talking he's one of the greats ever to play. Then when's the patience and when's the nurturing of what you've done to try and pass down? And when you look at a dressing room that is so split, dressing room that a player of that caliber coming in should literally cement everything together because of what he's going to bring. And let's face it, what he is bringing. But what we're talking about in the dressing room, what is supposed to be concrete, solid, and everybody together, is totally the opposite. So it's very confusing to me what he is actually doing. Apart from it, obviously, he's doing the best thing he can, is scoring goals, because that's what he does. But in respect to that dressing room, it's chaotic.
And Rory, it's not Rangnick's fault. You know, it's not his fault. It's not. It wasn't Moyes' fault. You know, all these managers. It's not your fault, Kels.
It's the structure.
It's definitely not my fault.
It's really boring to talk about kind of they need HR structures in place. It doesn't sound kind of what's sexy and glamorous is a big signing, or they can spend 150 million quid and that'll solve all the problems. But they need a proper structure. I remember being told after Fergie left, which is nearly 10 years ago, that they kind of just let quite a lot of positions go unfilled. They didn't have as many, they had more offices than scouts at Carrington, because they had kind of let it drift. And by all accounts, the problem now is the opposite. There's lots of different people doing the same job. So I think there was certainly under one manager that there were two assistants who were meant to be kind of doing the same stuff as each other and competing for it. We've got two technical directors, and they might throw Rangnick in as a sporting consultant on top of that.
And that's what it's sport. That's the phrase I was struggling for earlier on.
You have to keep
all
up
those positions are called different things.
Well, we don't say caretaker anymore. We have to say interim. It's very important.
Yeah.
But Rangnick will get some deal potentially as a consultant. But what does that mean? How does he interact with John Murtough and Darren Fletcher? Who's in charge? Whose vision?
It's very confusing for me as well, Carl, because I saw on the bench and I saw Darren Fletcher actually telling Rangnick stuff, almost like he was giving him advice, and I saw Rangnick like shaking his head like to say, yeah. It seems like that role should be reversed, because if he's going to be going upstairs to do that job, what Rory just mentioned, I can't remember what it's called. What is he going?
Sporting consultant.
Sporting consultant. Then surely he should be the one who's doing the talking and the organising, but it doesn't seem like that's happening. No,
and like you said, in terms of the mixed messages, then that's not helping a dressing room that you've talked about as being split. Yeah. And I wonder if back to your point, Dion, about the players around Cristiano Ronaldo and maybe not having that drive to eat the correct food or sleep at the right time or live in the right, whatever it may be, the extra small measures that he takes. I wonder if that's part of the recruitment policy, that the reason why you have this dressing room in such disarray is there hasn't been the recruiting of personalities.
That will work together. You know, round pegs and round holes at the moment. They've got good wingers, they've got decent centre forwards, they've got good players. But I just think, I always say, because what happened now, Ronaldo will be walking around the training ground. This is a fact. He'll be walking around the training ground. He'll be eating right. He'll be looking beautiful. He'll be going to the gym. He'll be doing everything correct. And what he will see is when he comes out the gym at 2:30, 3 in the afternoon, when training finished at 12:30, is kids going home in their cars. And the kids will be trying to get away before Ronaldo sees them going away. That's the kind of thing that happens. And I've always said, and I've been into football grounds and I've spoken to the academy kids and I've motivational speak to the kids what to do, what not to do. And I always end with, it's the work that people don't see that gets rewarded. And that's what Ronaldo's done for so long. And he won't be preaching it. It's just natural to him to go in the morning to have breakfast, train to the best of his ability, do his cold baths or whatever he does, going to the gym, but that's just the regime that he's done for so long, and I don't think
that's the regime he went into.
And that's something I don't think everybody wants to do. A lot of the kids will want to go home and just go like that and play on their games and stuff, you know.
Which is fine.
Which is fine.
If when they turn up, people are allowed to switch off at times.
You've got to do your work first, Coles. It's all about the work.
Especially at a club like United.
Exactly. The fans, I live up north, I live a lot around the Man United fans. The fans aren't seeing at the moment blood, sweat and tears. As bad as they have been this season, because the Man United standards are so high, they haven't seen Man United players running through brick walls, as we used to call it, for the cause. They haven't seen it.
It was really striking in the defeat to Liverpool how little the players seem to care. And I'm always really wary of accusing players of downing tools or chucking it in, because I've not been a footballer, and I refuse to believe that any player, especially at that level, doesn't primarily play for their personal dignity. They don't want to be embarrassed.
They don't, really, they don't.
You're right.
I don't really believe that there won't be players in that squad who aren't doing. I'm pretty sure they'll all be eating right. I can't believe Marcus Rashford isn't trying really hard to be his old self.
It's more the extra stuff. They'll all have a basic level.
Yeah, of course they will.
But I do wonder whether it's more that they know that the culture of the club is that there is no patience, that there is no kind of unity of purpose, there is no unity of vision, there's fractures with the fans. They know that the manager's going to go, and if it all goes wrong, the manager's going to go. They know that half the team's out of contract. You know, you're walking around looking at Mata and Matic and Pogba and all the others, and you know they're all going. What are you playing for? What are you doing that extra work for?
I think that, again, when you look at the recruitment, and you can't not look at the recruitment of City and Liverpool and the way they're going about buying their players, not just the shiniest one, but how will he fit into the structure? And so when you look at Manchester United's players, they do not gel. There's so many different personalities in there that are not on the same page when they get on the football pitch in respect of what they're trying to achieve.
This is what I found really, really interesting about the Manchester United recruitment, because this is something there's a real opportunity to fix this. The things that we're talking about as a problem right now, like the players who are going to be out of contract, like the fact that Ralph Rangnick is going to be moving on from his position as manager, whether that's to sporting consultant or not is a different thing, but there is a new manager coming in. All those things that mean there's turmoil at the moment mean that there's a fresh start, there's an opportunity for a clean slate over the summer. But this idea of the personality of the club, if you went, and if we're saying City and Liverpool are the benchmarks, if you went to City and Liverpool, you could pick not just the positions, the type of players, you could pick a personality, you could meet someone. You could pretty much divide all the people you know into they're a Pep Guardiola person or they're a Jurgen Klopp person. You could pretty much do that. But could you, we know what a Manchester United person used to be, probably similar to a Real Madrid personality, similar sort of personality. But it feels like they're not what's there. And that, I think, is really interesting, because they're the things that you can do all the football analysis you want, but they're the things that make the magic happen.
Yeah, that's the core. This is why you listen to Roy Keane speak about the Man United players, and he's gone to the place where he's no longer angry, he's disappointed. And I think that when you look at Man United, and not just the first team, but when you're growing up in the Man United academy, the standards down there is what get you ready for the first team. So what's happened is, somewhere along the line, they've lost what it's about to play for Man United, and how, yes, you're going to be under more pressure because you are playing for Man United. And it seems like there's a lot of players there now who cannot deal with the weight of expectation from the club. And like Rory rightly said, there is no way that club is going to have the patience for that to happen, for them to start to turn it all around, to then slowly find the right person upstairs who's going to make the decisions, to bring the right people in. Then you've got to find the people to be good enough to find the right player and the right personality. That takes time.
And this is the problem, isn't it? This is the absolute difficulty that Roy mentioned before. Manchester United need immediate success, and they also need a blueprint for future success, and they need both of those things to happen from the first day of next season, straight away under a brand new manager. I mean, what can they do in this short term and in the long term?
Man United, Kelly, have very, very good footballers. They've got a very good squad of individual talent. They really have. I think it's down to someone going into the dressing room and saying, right, and the manager, whoever it is, goes in and says, what's going on? Who's going to be brave enough to say, right, what's going on? What's going wrong? Just let's have it out. You know, is he not running enough, or he's not running enough, or do you not trust him? Or let's just talk about what's going wrong, because the squad of players I have in front of me right now is world class. It really is. So I think it's somebody asking the questions rather than talking at players. Talk to them.
Should have happened ages ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what hasn't happened.
We've now got a Manchester United manager who's given up on the fact that he's now admitting we can't make top 4. Those kind of things are things you don't associate with Man United. They've given up.
In his defence, it'd be hard to come out and say.
It would be hard to come out and say
we
that.
are going to make top.
You just don't hear it from the manager, though.
Yeah, but you know, you don't need to say that. For me, I don't think Ralph Rangnick needs to say that, because I think that we can all work it out ourselves. We're starting to see things that are coming out of the dressing room. It's a very leaky dressing room, like we've said, and your manager's saying that. It's literally telling them it's okay because we're not going to make top 4. So.
But it was really interesting at the start with Rangnick. He said a couple of kind of indiscreet things, and we all thought, oh, hang on, the players won't like that. And there was a bit of kind of hubbub around the United fans about it. But now he does it every week, and the fans adore it. He is telling it like it is. He is saying to them, this is what's wrong with this club, this is what needs to be fixed. And it's bizarre that he's going to come out of this with his reputation enhanced despite results, just because he's been brutally honest about how dysfunctional everything is.
Do you think it's in Manchester United's interest to keep a man who's been in that dressing room, who knows those players, who knows how the club runs, who knows what the link is between manager and board and ownership? Do you think he's got a role, or
Absolutely,
does the fact that he's the results
exact
haven't gone
person
well?
right now, whether he's the one to carry on, but what he's seen since his time he's been there till now, he's the exact person that Ten Hag needs to tell him what's going on with him and him. He's the exact person, whether he stays on for me after that or not, Rory. That's what I believe.
He's very much worth a long coffee, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. Worth a long coffee.
Ten Hag buys him lunch,
yes.
and they set aside an afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, to be honest, I would be inclined to keep him around, Rangnick. I think he's more experienced in that role than either John Murtagh or Darren Fletcher. That is what he's best suited as now, Rangnick. He's a consultant, a sporting director, an overseer. He's never really been an elite coach in that sense, but he'd be an invaluable resource.
Could that work then? Could you have Rangnick overseeing the longer term project, and you've got Ten Hag doing the day-to-day, right, this is what we're going to do this season, this is what we're going to do in the next game. Could that actually work well?
I mean, they're both used to it. Rangnick did that for Nagelsmann at RB Leipzig, and Ten Hag will have worked in that structure at Ajax. The difficulty is that Man United, like Real Madrid, is a club that is about power. It's about kind of internecine battles for power inside, and it's whether that relationship can survive in that environment. But yeah, there's no reason why not.
I think it's about going in and figuring out what characters you have in the dressing room and how you can use that character to your best.
Even at this stage?
Well, for the new season, for who he's going to keep and who he's not going to keep. That's what I mean.
And some of that will be out of his hands, of course.
And some of that will be out of his hands, of course. Wrighty's right. Ralph will have to tell him that's not quite right in training. He's not quite right. They stick together. So that's the information that he needs straight away, so that he can start to work with the players that want to work for Man United. There's a bigger picture, which is the pressure on the individual's shoulder for playing for Manchester United or playing for a big club. When you win, everything's fine. When you lose, in a way that Man United have lost recently, you stay in the house. Do you know what I mean? You don't go out for meals, you don't go for a walk, you stay in the house. That kind of information might sound harsh, but that's what it is. When you're in a football club that has a winning mentality, you don't win, you stay indoors. You can't enjoy it. You've got to put it right, and then you can enjoy it.
It's going to be really interesting to see what happens. But they've got this incoming manager who is known as an excellent coach, and so you would assume that he can. Until they get the kind of players, enough of the kind of players that they want for this, whatever this blueprint is going to be going forward, you get the impression he could get the most, at least, out of what he's already got. Because that's what's not been happening at Manchester United. I mean, that's surely the most, in a way, easily fixable, or the easiest to spot, that the players who are there aren't performing as well as they individually can.
You shouldn't have to coach these players on how to play the game in the position they are designated to. You have to persuade the player to do the job in that position for the team. That's all you got to do. Coach them that, get them to embed that, and then they'll do their. That's all you have to do. They are great players, Kelly. 85% of them are great players. Are they happy to go and do a job for the team and become successful? That's a different matter.
I think if you looked at Guardiola and Klopp particularly, a lot of the attacking, you watch Liverpool and City and you think they're freewheeling attacking units, but they're not. It's all by rote. They're all movements they've been taught, drilled them again and again and again in training.
That's it.
I'm not sure. Mourinho definitely doesn't do that. Mourinho's thing is, I'll organise the defence, you take care of the dirty business of scoring goals.
That was the early era Manchester City under Guardiola, wasn't it? Where as the players got used to him, he didn't overload them with information. He went, get to the final third, and then it's on you. But that's come later. Yeah,
and as the players got more used to his methods and kind of understood what he wanted more, and now you look at them and you can see the movements with City. They're the same every time. You can't stop them, but they're the same. I don't think Solskjaer did that. That's not how Solskjaer attacked. He was very much about expression. You can make a case that a lot of the attacking players at United probably haven't been coached in what is now considered cutting-edge style, possibly at all in their careers.
You look at someone like Marcus Rashford. You have to look at Marcus Rashford and his development up to this point. Yes, he's going through form and confidence and everything like that. But again, when you're playing with a coach who's coaching you and you're doing that in the team and you do it to the best of your ability, then the rest of the team are doing it around you as well. What comes with that is confidence, because you're doing what's right, what the manager wants. Then you're kind of putting your own confidence on it. So we're talking about getting 7 and 8 out of 10 performances out of you. Then confidence comes. Then you start playing well. Then it just starts flourishing. But when you look at the way Man United play, and I don't know, defensively from midfield, they never control a game. They haven't got any players, for me, who can get on the ball and manage the game and dictate the pace of the game. They're at the mercy of any organised team, and we saw it with Norwich, even with Norwich, who are going down, right? That they don't know what they're doing. So you think, if Ten Hag can come in with these very good players, because they are good players, right? I like Dalot, I like Telles to come in. Harry Maguire with the right people, of course, you give him the right protection. We've seen that he's going to be okay. The fact is, Scott McTominay's got that engine. Fred was seeing him play very well. And then up front, you got Ronaldo, you got Sancho, and you got Rashford once he gets his form and just stuff like that. So you've got players that if they're organised in a structure, they start playing to that structure and they start getting confidence in it, they will beat teams. But I don't know how comes that hasn't happened up to this point. It didn't happen under Ole. Didn't happen under him. It didn't. You see them and you think, what are they playing? What's their system?
But
Ten Hag hopefully will give them that.
Are they listening? Is that maybe an issue?
That's the whole point.
And the reason I ask that is because there's so much coming out of the dressing room that suggests that we're not happy with this manager, we don't like his methods. Well, it doesn't look as though there are methods, so maybe they're not listening. That's possible.
I can't see. I've sat with George Graham shouting through, and I've not been listening. he's talking at me, and that's another thing. When you got a manager that's constantly on you and shouting at you, in the end you don't listen. But I knew what he wanted me to do, and once I'd done what he wanted me to do, whether it's chase back, track back, make sure you hold the ball. Once you're doing that stuff and you feel confident doing what you're doing, then your own expression comes out.
If you look at the Man United squad of players, even now. Today, I don't know who plays where. I don't know. Back four, you've got about 6 or 7 players that can play there. I don't know who's their best. You look in the midfield, great players again, Rashford, Sancho, Bruno, Pogba, all brilliant. But I'm not sure who plays best where in that system because we don't know how they play.
The only thing that's fixed is De Gea and Ronaldo. It's the only fixed things there.
And that's because it's a squad that's been cobbled together by lots of different managers at lots of different times with lots of different styles. And the other thing that they miss, I think, is that... So we talk a lot about philosophy and visions and all those poncy words. It gives you a benchmark when things aren't going well. You know why you're making that run. You know the ball never arrives because the midfielder's not good enough to play it. You know why you're tracking that runner, even though he's much faster than you and you can't keep up and you concede a goal.
That's when managers look most supportive on the touchline, isn't it? When players give the ball away and the manager's like this. Because you were doing what he asked them to do.
That basic mistake is exactly what I wanted you to do nearly. Guardiola's a master at that. Guardiola never enjoys anything more than seeing one of his own players give the ball away in the wrong place. But it gives you something to work towards, and that United haven't had that for ages. So they need some some sort of broader, more coherent vision of what they want to be, and then maybe the players can buy into something.
Yes.
I think a lot of it comes down to when you have a problem, with at a football club like United, or I'm talking, the biggest clubs in our league, Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, City. When you have a problem, normally, if the manager can't fix it, the players will fix it, or the seniors that are in charge of the dressing room will fix it. Or they'll have a meeting with just the players, gaffer, coaches, leave us alone, really, we need to have a chat about this, we need to have it out. And the players will deal with it. At United, they don't have the leaders or the people that are able or want to take charge and say, right, hold it a minute, lads. Something's wrong here. We are Man United and we are absolutely struggling here. Why are we struggling? Look around, the quality. There's no leaders and nobody wants to take responsibility. In his day, there was about 11. The squad of Man United players I was in, there was about 15. You look at all the teams that have won the league, Chelsea, even Blackburn with Alan Shearer and Tim Sherwood and Tim Flowers, they were all leaders. Man United don't have anybody that's willing to take charge.
And we keep waiting for Manchester United and those players to perform to the best of their ability. It's not quite happened yet. Will it happen against Chelsea? They play each other later on this evening. Thomas Tuchel has been talking ahead of the game.
And Tony is a huge factor in our last 1.5 seasons together. He gives everybody confidence in the dressing room. He is a unique character. He's an aggressive leader. He is available over 100% of the matches, like 90% of the matches. He's simply available and he plays on an outstanding level. And no matter how the situation will be solved and when it will be solved and how things will be settled in the end, and how active we can be on the transfer market, can we react in which frame we can react. At the end, we will dig in and we will try to squeeze out everything of the squad that we have. And I hopefully, and like I know myself, I will again fall in love with the squad that I have then, and try to push the squad to the limit. Like I said, it was a pleasure every single day with Tony, and we have not reached all our goals that we have for the season, so there are still things to achieve, big things, and he is still a big part of this club, and we demand still 100% of him, and this is where the focus is. And then from pre-season next season, we will, like I said, life will go on. We will give our very best, and I will be fully involved with all my heart and all my knowledge, sure.
Chelsea find themselves in a difficult situation as well. I mean, now, problem-solving skills are required yet again in this case, but we're now going to involve international politics as well into that, which I don't mean to make light of, just to point out the limitations as to what we can kind of say about what's happening at Chelsea and what we can kind of work out. So let's start with the stuff that we can make head and tail of, which is, you can't actually say that phrase that way around, I don't think, but let's try it. With what's happening on the pitch with Chelsea, it's not working out for them at the moment. They look like players have lost their way a little bit. There might be a bit of an element of what's happening at Manchester United in that they're sort of comfortable in third and not really sure what they're playing about. Plus the future is uncertain past the summer.
Very uncertain past the summer. You look at Chelsea and they're talking about Rudiger there, and obviously, I think that even before everything's happened with Chelsea, with the sanctions, I think his mind was kind of made up. He's going to run that contract down so as he can leave. We're hearing that he's going to go to Madrid, and I don't think it helped. He's kind of like being ostracised under Frank, you know what I mean, coming in and then doing so brilliantly. But when you look at the way it's been managed at Chelsea with, you have to say Gahey and Tomori, they were maybe, before Tuchel could maybe get hold of them, they were kind of gone. And then you've got Christensen and Aspilicueta coming out of contract. And Rudiger now maybe leaving. You just think to yourself, what is going on there at the moment in midfield? You know, Kante, Jorginho, they're getting to that age now. So they're going to need, I think they need at least three centre-halves, Chelsea. They're going to need another defensive midfielder up front. It's been a nightmare, you know, with Lukaku. You know, Timo Werner, whatever anyone says, Timo Werner puts in the kind of performances where you can still get something from him.
He puts a shift in.
Puts a shift in and you get something from him. But when you look at hopefully Callum Hudson-Odoi, you've got Ziyech, you've got Christian Pulisic, you've got so many players that if the new people come in, and that Rory, and they're going to say, listen, you're going to have to work with these guys, man. You're going to make Pulisic play better, make them play better. Callum Hudson-Odoi, the potential and what he's capable, make them play better, because when you look at Chelsea, it looks very, very scary with what they've got to do with the sanctions and new owners. New owners might come in. Lukaku, what are you going to do with you have to say a problem that now Chelsea find in Lukaku, with the amount of money he's been earned, that they paid for him, the amount of money he's earning, is that going to be some loan somewhere? Because if the new people come in and said, no, we're going to clean house and we want to start again, then bam, they're going to have to take that hit. But like, I look at Chelsea and I was on the driving in, I was thinking, that's a massive problem at Chelsea right now.
It's confusing, Chelsea, isn't it? It's really hard to know which way they go. Do they try and ship out all those players that are under contract, which are good players? They are good players, or do you try and keep them and try and work with what you've got? I genuinely don't know how Tuchel's going to make this better.
But that's his
They
presence.
can't at
His
the moment,
presence
though,
is
as well.
well, yeah, they can't do anything at the moment.
Yeah.
But we are expecting white smoke from the chimney at some point.
Over Stamford Bridge.
We'll be over Manhattan, because that's where they're running it
Well,
from. Isn't it?
right.
The rain
Yeah,
group,
okay.
sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the three groups, whether it's Stephen Paliuca, the owner of the Boston Celtics, or the one with all the people involved,
Yes.
Sebastian Coe, Martin Broughton,
Yeah.
apparently Serena Williams.
Yeah, Lewis Hamilton.
Lewis
that's somebody,
Hamilton
yes,
is involved,
that's-
boyhood Arsenal
Yeah.
fan. There's that one, and then there is the Todd Bowley, Hans-Jörg Wyss, various other people one. There's lots of consortiums, lots of people. One of those will be named owners eventually, we presume. Can't guarantee it, we presume that one of those will be named owners.
Well, what do you mean? We can't, so it's not guaranteed that any of them will.
Well, potentially not, because it still has to be approved by Abramovich. Although he can't access the funds, it's his thing. So by all accounts, he still gets to, if he doesn't like any of the bids, by all accounts, he can still say no. And then there is a political element to it as well, that the British government have to be confident that they are handing Chelsea a valuable cultural asset.
Having frozen their assets and having frozen their access to, they have to.
It's a
they
political
have to look
thing.
responsible.
Yeah, they can't.
It's
they
an
can't,
image thing.
They couldn't just give it to me.
Could you afford it?
This is
brand new
that'd be a wise
information to us.
move. Be a wise
be a
move.
very
Don't
wise
give
move.
it to Rory.
Yeah,
That's what I would say.
that's basic. It was 101 club sales. Don't give it to me.
You'd have to sell one of his properties to raise the funds.
Property, did you say? Oh, sorry.
Massively overestimating the wages that New York.
Stairs, loads of stairs.
So is it going to happen
I
this
think
week,
it will
you
be.
think?
We're meant to be getting an answer this week as to who the preferred bidder is, and there is then another stage to that process.
Rory, you know if like you just mentioned those different consortiums, if they all came in with the same amount of money to buy Chelsea or to take over, who then would have the decision on that?
That's a slightly murky question, to be honest. So Rain Group are the New York investment bank who are running the process, and I guess it would be up to them to decide whose pitch is best for the vision for the club, or I mean, I think it's unlikely that the terms will all be the same. Someone will be offering the most money, but I guess it's whoever sort of, maybe it's similar to when you're buying a house. You kind of sometimes have to meet the owner, and you maybe have to
Hope they've baked a cake or something.
charm them a little bit.
Is there also a question of
Smells nice.
the Rain Group who are overseeing this as a huge international banking group? There is a sort of will from them to stay on the good side of people with an awful lot of money who may like to invest in it. They have skin in this game as well.
They really do, Kelly, and they get very cross if you suggest that to them. They really don't like being told that perhaps they're not an entirely neutral participant in the. But obviously they can't be, because you're dealing with incredibly wealthy people who will at some point. I mean, Todd Bowley part owns the LA Dodgers. They might have some massive, infrastructure project that Rain Group might want a part of. So obviously that's a factor. We're meant to get an answer this week, but whoever gets it will not be underwriting losses of 100 million quid a year like Abramovich was. Things will change at Chelsea. There will not be the days of sort of self-sustainability until you really want to sign Romelu Lukaku.
Yes.
Where there's a player that you really have to, like, we really like this guy. Roman, please, can we have the money? That sort of model of just about self-sustainability.
And him just saying
Independent living until you go to the bank of mum and dad.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And Roman Abramovich just saying yes. When you look at the way that City we constantly have to talk about City and Liverpool, the way they've gone about their business, because they're streets ahead of everybody else for no other reason other than they are brilliant upstairs, brilliant managers, and their players are fantastic, right? So you look at the way that they're signing players. Chelsea don't sign players like that, and that is what they're probably going to have to do, because when you've got somebody who says it's okay, if you've got 100 million, I'll just write it off. That's not happening no more. So they cannot do that. So whoever's going to be doing recruitment for them now is going to actually have to earn his money.
But it's all well and good talking about recruitment. The problem is, at the moment, they don't know who's going to be leaving. They don't know who they can bring in. They can't even start any negotiations with any of the players that they would potentially want to bring, other than the most rudimentary sort of contact with them, because they don't know what they don't know what their situation is going to be.
And the thing is, we're getting into the part of the season where you're probably planning what you want to happen now for the.
You should be. If you're not, you're doing it wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So with like everything you've said, and then they don't know what's going on. It's absolutely. I can't even find a word to say the position they find themselves in. You know, it's a nightmare.
But the Rudiger thing predates the sanctions. Wrighty's totally right. That if you look at their defence, you've got Thiago Silva, who is 37 or 38, and has a World Cup. He is at Chelsea because he wants to be in the Brazil squad for the World Cup in November. That's the only reason he's in England. Otherwise, he'd be off on the beach in Brazil somewhere. At 37, 38, exactly. At 37, 38, it'd be better than being in Doha. He is going to, at some point, especially next season, he's going to play the first half of the season, then a World Cup,
and then back.
I think he might be quite tired.
Yeah.
I mean, Thiago Silva's been one of the best of his generation, and it's brilliant that we've had the chance to see him in England. But time catches up with us all. Christensen's going, Rudiger's going, Azpilicueta might go. We think Barcelona certainly think they can sign Azpilicueta, but they've known about Rudiger and Christensen's contract for 2 years.
They'll find themselves in a situation where these players obviously will be allowed to go because their contracts are up. And with nobody coming in at the moment under the situation they are under, that sort of cloud, then this manager has to deal with what's left.
Because I'm still not sure whether
and it's going to get worse
at the moment, until the new owners are properly in and the sanctions have been lifted, or the sort of assets have been unfrozen, defrosted, if you like, that we don't know that Chelsea can actually. We're not sure really whether Chelsea can actually sell players at the moment, are we? Or they can sell it, but they can't.
They definitely can't
access the funds.
Yeah,
they can release.
I think they can certainly release players,
Okay.
And I think that under the terms of the licence, which the government have kind of said they will tweak as necessary, they could probably, if there was a player who was desperate to leave, they could sell that player, and the money would then be put in a special account for the new owners to unlock when they take over. But that takes months.
Leads to more uncertainty as well, which comes back to the players and the performances that we're seeing from Chelsea, and that uncertainty buying into so many of those players whose futures, as of this summer, are uncertain. They don't know where they're going to be. They don't know where they're going to be playing. If they're staying at Chelsea, they don't know what playing for Chelsea next season is going to look like.
It can't be. It's like I say. It comes to when you get to like what Chelsea are doing now. Obviously, they've got an FA Cup final, but you know, when you get to this stage of the season, you do start thinking. Obviously, you've got the final, but then you start thinking about right next year we're going to do this. They literally can't do that. They can't. I think that as the years have gone by, Chelsea have turned into a kind of a cup team anyway. The way that they've not really been challenging. We thought that with Lukaku coming at the start of the season, there's a lot of us. I tipped Chelsea and Liverpool. So Chelsea, Liverpool, and I went with Chelsea. I'm gutted I've done that now, but the fact is
because it's Manchester City.
Yes, I'm still going with Liverpool. But the fact is that when Lukaku signed, I thought that was the final piece, and you know how wrong we all were. But like when you look at them now and what's going to happen next season, it is a frightening prospect because you don't know what's going to happen. Kante, like I mentioned, he's getting to that side of it, that stage of his career now. Same with Jorginho, that 29s and stuff like that. So they're looking to have to maybe bring in those. They've got to strengthen everywhere. They've got to find something everywhere. So you know, Chalobah's not even. You know, not too long ago he's doing brilliantly. He's not getting a squad recently. So he's probably somebody that they're going to have to go back to at some stage because it seems like they're not going to have any defenders there anyway.
I think if you can find out the reason why Romelu Lukaku didn't work, then you'll find out the reason for why Chelsea aren't doing it. Because I don't know how you can't get a player like Romelu Lukaku to continue to score goals for Chelsea at the rate he was scoring before. I don't know what can be wrong. You know, why wouldn't you play in a way that suits him? Because you've just spent 97 million or whatever it was on him. Nice. You know, and I was with Wright. I'm thinking, oh, Chelsea, here we go. Chelsea, Romelu Lukaku, brilliant. There you go.
The most used phrase on that signing was missing piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, correct.
That was it.
Correct.
That was
and I genuinely thought it was. I thought they've got some really good players.
He couldn't have been signed by Tuchel. It doesn't make any sense.
It can't really, just because Tuchel's so smart tactically. It's really hard to imagine that he signed Lukaku thinking, I want him to do this, without like checking whether Lukaku was on board with it. That seems totally impossible.
You know, and the biggest surprise is when Romelu came out and done his interview, that was almost like the death knell for himself, because I don't know how you come back from that.
In the midst of all of this, there's a game tonight, Manchester United against Chelsea. Very brief predictions, Rory, thoughts?
Chelsea I'm going with.
Okay, that was very brief.
He made that easier, probably Chelsea.
Yeah.
I'll go United.
Will you?
Yeah.
Why?
Because he used to play for him.
Because I didn't play for Chelsea.
Fair enough. That's the kind of in-depth football analysis you could expect right here. Coming up, we are going to be looking at the rest of the Premier League. We're going to be talking about one team who've made a fantastic new start under their new boss, Eddie Howe. We'll be talking Newcastle. What a turnaround it's been under Eddie Howe. And you can look at the money, you can look at the signings who came in January, but you also have to look at the players who've improved under Eddie Howe.
Well, that's what you have to do, because you have to say the signings. Obviously, Kieran Trippier started very, very well. I think Chris Woods has done okay up top, but it's people like Joe Linton who's kicked in, John Joe Shelby. Them two were actually keeping Guimaraes out of the team. And I think Kraft has kicked on and done very well. I think that what Eddie's done, he's improved that team. And, the Newcastle fans were always, they would talk about, they feel like this team's got more in them. And what he's done is he's coaching them better, and he's giving them the opportunities to go and express themselves. And that's what we're seeing, Joe Willock, like I say, with Joe Linton. He's done exactly what he should be doing at this time. And the signings that he has done, I wouldn't say they've done unbelievably well there. Guimaraes has just come in, like I said, he's done well. But other than that, he's improved those players.
I agree. I think he's done, sorry, Kelly, I think he's coaching, organisation, which we spoke about Man United earlier. Man United have got a far better squad of individuals, but he's gone in and coached players to play well at what they do. He's given them boundaries. They're nowhere near the same.
Coach them well in what they do, and also in the case of Joe Linton, coach them well in what they didn't do beforehand.
And knowing exactly where to play certain players.
Well, the thing with Joe Linton is that he came and he actually wasn't
centre forward.
It's just like, again, you think of that recruitment, he looks big, let's play him up front.
Was it 9 goals the previous season or something?
I think this, sorry, Wrighty, the first signing, Kieran Trippier, the first one through the door, probably the bravest decision he's ever made, Kieran Trippier, by the way, to go to, money might have been an issue, but
Newcastle, family as well.
Newcastle's a massive football club. Let's get it right. It's a massive football club. But he would have had other offers as well, without a doubt. But to get him through the door first was a genius move. And for him to do that, he's helped Newcastle out so much, because people have seen him going for, hold it a minute, he's a world-class right-back. I want to go where he goes. And he's now going to be that catalyst for other players to go and think, hold it a minute, if he's going to go, I'm going to go.
It's very clever. It's like when you remember City, when City came and they got all the money what they had, they didn't go bam and go smash and sign. They signed.
They bought Robinho.
Yeah, they bought Robinho. They went bam. And I'm talking about. But remember what the kind of players that we're talking about. Ronaldinho's coming in this one, but they got Robinho. But who they signed, which was great signings, Lescott, Milner, Gareth Barry, that kind of signing, they went that can take them to that next level, which they did. And I think that what what Eddie Howe's done with Trippier, with Woods, is he's made that kind of signing that very, very dependable player.
Yeah.
Right, to take them to that next level. You know, you've got people like Joe Willock who's already in there, and stuff like John Jones, all those guys, Dan Burns. But then what'll happen is because they've survived comfortably now. And then next season, especially when you listen to what it's like at St James's Park at the moment, they'll probably go to the next level of player. Like, I think they've already done it with Guimaraes. We're seeing what he's doing now, Rory, and you're thinking...
Do you want to see what he's doing now?
Can we?
Yes,
Let's have a look.
Yeah.
Let's have a look.
So tell us.
Well, the thing with him is that he's one of those as well that he's... with this goal, it's the way... Look, the way he sneaks that... But it's this is the bit. That's the quality that we're seeing. And so what they'll do is he'll end up coming in and doing something like what Cabaye done, and going to be that kind of player, Rory. But
I just worry that his celebration game is a little bit.
he didn't like it.
He looked like a player who wasn't sure what to do.
You know
there was
what?
a lot going on.
No, but Rory, I'll tell you, scoring that kind of goal, you can't really do too much of other than say, "Did you see that?" That's the kind of celebration you go. Did you just see that?
He had something planned, but then he thought, "Did you know what? That was a brilliant finish."
That was a brilliant finish.
You people just need to appreciate me.
I never had the chance to go. Did you see that? Because I headed it in.
Also, it happens so often.
That's signing. Yeah. I'm saying that's the way you can see
where
they're going to try and go.
The January window was kind of bookended. Wrighty's completely right. That bringing Trippier in set the tone. That kind of caught people's attention, but in a responsible way.
Yeah.
Then the rest of it was building through the levels as City did when they had that window. So City did kind of go like the Robinho Kaká route first, and then they saw the error of their ways and thought, right, we're basically going to buy Villa and Everton's team, and then once they've got us to 6th, we'll buy Arsenal's team. And they'll get to the Champions League. That was what City did, and Newcastle seemed to be taking the sort of similar approach. They went and got a team that could make them finish. I think they were probably thinking 12th, but it may well now be top half because Howe's done such a good job. And you can't separate that money from the success, but Eddie Howe still has to coach them. He still has to get them into a coherent system and to make them play for each other.
And they have to respond. The players have to respond as well to the coaching. He can be the best coach ever, but if the players don't want to do what he's asking, so he's actually brought in good characters that are going to listen to what he wants to say. And when he was signing, when he sat down, listen, I'm going to play this certain way. Like whoever signed Romelu Lukaku at Chelsea probably didn't have that conversation. I need you to do this, I need you to do that. Eddie Howe sat down with his players and said, right, this is the way I'm going to play. I think you're perfect for it. Would you like to come along with me?
And you know what else is really evident as well? One of the things you could point a finger at Eddie Howe was how many goals his team conceded. I think that he's conceded 1 in 4. And that is something that I was worried that they're bringing Eddie Howe in. Defensively, he's not really, doesn't really, you know what I mean? His teams don't defend very well.
And there are the improved defensive statistics under him. But the other point and the other accusation that was, or concern about Eddie Howe when he was appointed at Newcastle was not sure about his record in the transfer market. When he was at Bournemouth, there was a lot of criticism about the players that he brought in, particularly in the latter couple of seasons. Well, that doesn't look like that's a concern now at Newcastle, and it doesn't seem to be the finance because, like we said, it's all about buying in the right player.
Yeah, I mean, even though, which ones would you say have been outright successes in terms of kind of absolutely shining? Trippier while he was playing, Dan Burn I think has done brilliantly. Target's been solid but unspectacular, but I think they've all fitted a role. They've all slotted straight in. They can all do a job. They've all increased competition. So it may be that Fabian Schär's playing better because Dan Burn's there, or Kraft has come through because he knows he's got to stand in for Trippier. You raise standards. It's not necessarily that Chris Wood hasn't scored 30 goals since January, but he's given them an option. He's given them a different way of playing. He's given them a presence up front that might get more out of Sam Maximan or Joelinton.
They've all contributed.
That's the thing.
They've all contributed. And when every single player contributes to what Wrighty said at the very start of the show, a 7 and 8 performance, you're going to get a very good team performance if everybody's at those levels. And that's all you ask. Contribute to the performance with your own talent.
And it's definitely not an accident that I think at the start of January there would have been an expectation that Newcastle had all this new money. They would go and sign Neymar, go and sign whoever.
There was a little bit of that from the Newcastle supporters, and I know some of it was just being a little bit giddy, and a lot of it was quite tongue-in-cheek. But there was an undercurrent of some degree of expectation that I think wasn't quite met with a Dan Burn, for example, coming in, or a Chris Wood coming in.
You don't get taken over and made the richest club in the world and expect to see Dan Burn walking through the door. That's probably fair, and I'm sure Dan Burn didn't expect to see Dan Burn walking through the door. But I think the way they handled the money has been really sensible. The fact that they were all, apart from Bruno, from the Premier League, that wasn't an accident. Does that mean you can slot straight in? Eddie Howe can say, right, this is your job. You know what it's like here. You know what you're going to be facing. You know what the challenge is. Go and do it.
He's only done right. Eddie Howe, he's done nothing wrong. Look where they are. I mean, unless Klopp wins, the quadruple, he should be manager of the year. It's an outstanding job at a football club that was really losing its way. It's found its way, and they look, other teams now in the Premier League will be thinking, oh no, we've got Newcastle this weekend. They won't want to play Newcastle.
Yeah, we'll come on to that in a second, but just to underline the first point that you made there about the change since Eddie Howe has come in. When he came in, this is how the Premier League table looked. Newcastle were 5 points from safety. There was an expectation after 11 games that they'd be down there, even with the money coming in. It might not be great even after January, and it isn't what's happened.
And then you look at that with the monies. So you were talking about what players they're going to try and attract. Any player from any league see that. It doesn't matter how much money you've got. So what he's done to not only get them out of that situation, but get the players to come there and turn it into that. Right, is now, who they got? I think that...
So 38 points from the following 23 games Newcastle have got, and it's taken them into ninth place in the table.
Yeah, you look at the games that they've won, but then you look at the games they've got coming up now. I think it's Liverpool City.
Liverpool at lunchtime on Saturday,
Liverpool City and Arsenal.
which is an interesting one. Yeah, then Manchester City and then Arsenal. But the Liverpool game at lunchtime on a Saturday is a really interesting one, because there's a feeling from a Liverpool perspective this is a dangerous one, because Newcastle have an excellent home record, that the atmosphere at St James's Park is fantastic, but it's at lunchtime and there can be slightly quieter crowds, and there can be it's a really difficult one to predict, but it's certainly one that neither Liverpool or City, if they were going to St James's, would take lightly.
It's a game that where City and Liverpool are now. Every single game, it doesn't matter what time it's kicking off, it is the next biggest game in their careers right now as we speak, simply because Newcastle, it's a free hit for them, because we're talking about not long ago, this is the kind of game you think, oh my God, if Newcastle ain't safe by the time they get to these, they're going down. And they are. They're safe. So they can just have a free hit at Liverpool.
But also, there's everybody always says you want the teams that are safe. You want the teams that don't have anything to play for.
Yeah.
I spoke to Glenn Murray, a former Brighton striker, about this, and he said, especially with them having Liverpool and then Manchester City, there is something in and that team, with all the momentum behind it, with a load of players wanting to cement their place and feeling like they're involved in something exciting. They want to have a say in the title race. They want to look back at the end of the season and go, we played a part in that. Whichever way it goes and whatever happens, they're involved. They're involved in the big story of the season.
Are, and I disagree with teams that have nothing to play for, really, are the easy ones. Obviously, no game's easy, we know that. But when you've got a team like Newcastle that have done so well, a little bit of momentum, they're not going to do anything, they're not going to win anything this year. They've done great. However, when you have no pressure at all, and you are no pressure, players can go out and just play and enjoy it and try a trick or try a finish. They can be really dangerous. They've got nothing to lose. Like Wrighty says, it's a free hit.
You don't really get this scenario a lot in when you're playing in the Premier League or playing football at that level. You don't get this scenario where you can just go and play, and you're playing against a team, a Liverpool side that have to win. The thing is... And
they've got a crowd who will love it. If somebody's trying a trick or doing something unexpected, they'll love it.
It's still, it might be like 12:30, but it's still St James's Park.
Yeah.
No, but I'm just saying it's not the kind of night games.
It might be,
could have been
it's slightly different.
Yeah, if it's an 8 o'clock kickoff, then maybe it becomes a different...
But we are dealing with, though...
I'm just saying the 12:30s are weird.
Yeah, they are.
They're always weird.
Same as Monday nights, you get slightly strange results.
I feel that with Liverpool and Man City, we are watching two of the greats, and the attitude and the drive in these players. I think we're going to see it again against a Newcastle side that we can talk about here. And yes, we've given all the reasons why this could be very tricky. But these guys, I think we're seeing something very special from Liverpool, and the same with City this season. These players are locked in respect of their heads and what they need to do. They're totally locked in. And I'm just loving watching it at the moment.
Dion's completely right that Newcastle can cut loose and they've got that momentum.
Yeah.
I don't think necessarily either Liverpool or Man City would. I mean, Liverpool have got the harder task because it's at St James's, but Liverpool, not many teams go and play Liverpool and Man City anymore. They sit back, they wait for them to break them down. You could equally make the case that might be a bit of a refreshing change for both of them.
Yes.
I think just to give you like a bit of an insight into what it's like to play a 12:30. Having spaghetti bolognese at 9:30, it's not great.
Weird, isn't it?
It's horrible. Yeah. Spaghetti bolognese and all those
why
kind
do you
of
have to
pre-match.
have spaghetti
Because you have to make sure you have to do it in the same hours, like of a normal Saturday.
But why can't you have the same? This is what I've. Sorry, we're digressing slightly here. What I don't understand: why can't you have the same nutrients into a more breakfast-friendly food?
Like, that's the thing, you see. You can have eggs, but you have to have some form of slow-releasing
sugar.
Like porridge.
Energy.
Sugar.
Like porridge.
We never had porridge in our day, Kels. It wasn't even invented in our day.
People didn't eat that. Kels, what you've done is that you try to, so you normally kick off at 3 o'clock.
That's right.
So so that's the hour. So then you just move it back so you eat it a lot earlier.
If you were a person of habit who had the same pre-match meal for every single game, then you would have that pre-match meal, whether it was at breakfast, lunch or dinner.
Because they'd let you have that. They let you do it like that because that's what you're used to and that's what you have.
No, then that's your
it burns off in the time that you're meant to burn off.
Scrambled eggs and beans, chicken and beans,
that's breakfasty.
Beans on toast, pasta. Hugo Ekio, good friend of ours, God rest his soul, Hugo had pasta. He wouldn't change anything. He was stubborn. Hugo would have pasta. 12:30, 8:30, it didn't matter.
You never woken up and thought, do you know what I could do with some lasagna?
Lasagna.
I definitely.
8:30.
I'd have breakfast lasagna.
But you you've got a game at 12:30, you need to have it.
Very often. We'll bring it back to football very shortly. We've been talking about Newcastle and the improvement under Eddie Howe, but does a new manager necessarily mean an improved performance from the team? We'll be talking about that, particularly in terms of the context of Burnley's match against Watford. Have Watford seen what they want to under the appointment of Roy Hodgson? And have Burnley got a new manager bounce? Hello and welcome back. Do you remember when everybody said that sacking Sean Dyche was a massive mistake and that Burnley would definitely be relegated if they got rid of him? Not really worked out that way, has it?
Well, the thing is, I think that the reason why people were saying that is because it was such a shock after 10 years and what he's done and, you know, everything what he's done. But, like, you look at what they're doing now and how they're playing, you can't help but look and see that there is the bounce has happened simply because that man he's been there for 10 years. And it looks to me like with Ben Mee, Mike Jackson, I think it's Jenkins there as well, he's letting them play. They seem to be able to play and express themselves a bit. You could see it in the way they are.
He started to bring in Sean, and none of this is to minimise his achievements.
No,
Burnley,
absolutely
which have been
not.
Extraordinary at times over the years, but he did bring in players who were capable of playing a different kind of football.
Yeah, but they weren't doing
traditional Burnley football. But now they've been allowed to show it.
Now they're doing it. You look at someone like Dwight McNeil. You know, the same with you look at Vigal. Like you've seen him now. It's obviously he's been told, listen, come out of the box, link, play a bit more. Dwight, go over onto the right side, play on the left, cut in on your left foot, play, go and do some stuff. It seems like that has happened because when I've watched that, that's what I've seen happening. You know, whereas before, Vigals would be in the middle, Dwight McNeil would be on the left, just trying to hammer it in there to the big guy. Whereas now they're playing. You know, and it's no disrespect to Sean Dyche, but the fact is that this team feels like the shackles are off them. And maybe it is just as simple as not anything necessarily the new manager's doing, that he's just different.
Fresh voice.
That it just doesn't feel that they're mired in that relegation battle in the same way.
I think sometimes, having been in the dressing room and a new man comes in, a fresh voice, for some reason, when you're in a team meeting, you will sit in the same seat, you'll sit next to the same person, and you'll hear the same voice, and you kind of just zone out a little bit. Fresh voice, new coaches, new face to listen to, different ideas. You're sort of like, you're attentive, and that's why you get the bounce, because you've been given a new job. You're playing, but you've been given a new job, which is quite exciting. I can go and play on the right side and chopping on my left. That kind of thing happens when a new manager goes in. It might have happened if Sean Dyche had stayed, they might have had the same results. We don't know that.
I don't think it happened.
They might have got 9 points instead of 7.
Hey, look,
I don't think it happens.
You never know.
I don't think it happens. Otherwise, it would have happened already.
But I just think what I'm trying to say is the new has made the players think,
yes,
and a bit
fresh.
more verse. If Sean was still there, they probably would have been hearing the same thing and the same voice.
To what extent do you think that's to do with the fact that managers, after a while, all become a little bit kind of beholden to their ideas? So Dyche had signed players like Maxwell Cornet, who were not kind of, Kelly did the inverted commas, but like traditional Burnley players. But he never seemed to really want to say, all right, we're going to change the way we do things. Yeah, is it the fact that kind of when he goes, you get just access to some different instructions?
Well, obviously, with the way that they're playing, it seems it's like obviously it's something that he wanted to do, but for some reason he couldn't do it. He couldn't. It's like trying to sprint in a dream. He's got it there, but he just can't do it. And you see the players. And, the players that he's signed, and you think, they're going to change their style. Oh, be careful what you wish for. And they were there, like we're talking about them. Like I've seen Jack Cork come back into the scene, very footballing midfielder. Jack Cork come back in. Like you mentioned Cornet, telling Vigals to come and play. It literally comes down to the pieces were there and somebody else has got the vision of how it can be and he's given them the confidence to go and do it.
Do you remember when Stoke went through that phase of only signing players from Barcelona? And it was as though kind of two distinct football worlds were meeting and we were going to see what happened.
Yeah.
But every year under Mark Hughes, there'd be a point where he'd have like Mark Muniesa and Bojan and Shaqiri. Afellay, just watching balls fly over their heads. Because at some point he couldn't quite bring himself to make that switch completely to say, we're going to trust this style. And I think Dyche maybe had the same.
I think Dyche might have been thinking, Rory, he might have been saying, you know what, we'll stay up for this season and then we'll go through it in the summer, how we're going to work, and then we'll start doing it next season.
I don't know if it's even that. I just think that Sean Dyche knew what worked. And as soon as there was a bit of an issue, a bit of a problem, a couple of bad results, it must be so tempting just to say, I don't know, I think I want to do the thing that I know. We're all like that. We're all human.
But trust is, I think, the interesting word in all of that, where you've got a group of players, you've done it for 10 years, you've at times taken them much further up the table, but often been involved in relegation battles and gone, this is, as Rory said, this has worked. I know this will work, until suddenly you get to a season where you think, this might not work.
Yeah,
and it's having that courage.
It's what stopped us all having lasagna for breakfast. Worse.
I did
from having lasagna for breakfast. Not all of us.
I did have lasagna.
That must be quite frightening for a manager like Sean Dyche. Now you're saying, I'm just thinking of it, when he's done what he's done for the time he's done it, and he's done it brilliantly to keep Burnley in the Premier League for the amount of time he has done. In the end, yes, his sacking was a surprise to us, simply because of the way it came. It came for like 5 days after Norwich. Why wouldn't it? If that's the case, then sack him straight after it, or sack him 2 months ago. I don't know, but the fact is, they have now got some people in there now that in the little time that they've been there, they've literally they've opened the window and the fresh air's coming into the place.
Yeah,
and they seem to be loving it.
I think it's a win-win for both parties. I think Sean Dyche has done brilliant, and he will always be held in high regard at Burnley by the fans, and he will get another job.
Yeah,
he will get another job.
I've also seen in the meantime quite a few pictures on social media of him meeting fans in beer gardens. He's been making the most of the unseasonably good weather.
Dyche in a beer garden? You're joking.
But to be involved in that, and to be as involved in Burnley as he was, and to have the control that he's had over all that time, to be able to step away from that, must be hard.
Yeah.
But there must be a part of him that is quite enjoying life without that responsibility.
Obviously, he'll miss it, but I think Rory touched on it slightly. When you're a long-term manager, like Sean Dyche was the longest-serving manager, I think, at the time, is that every time you do something important or good with your football club, for Burnley, it's been staying up year after year after year and getting better and better. You have to change something for the better, whether it's players or the way you play. You have to keep getting better. Burnley they've just plateaued in a way where they just do what they do it well, they've stayed up. You have to try and do something different. Maybe this manager's doing that, and maybe it's what Wrighty touched on, that maybe next season has come 4 or 5 games earlier.
The thing with Burnley, though, is that it was always very much understood by the Burnley crowd.
Yes.
There was no expectation from Burnley, as maybe there started to be with Stoke under Tony Pulis, as maybe there was at Brighton under Chris Hughton. we want to see a different kind of football. It's not enough for us just to stay in the Premier League. We want to see something different. The crowd at Turf Moor love a challenge almost as much as they love a goal.
Yeah.
And that style, that combative
gritty,
style of football is something that they really buy into. I just wonder if this now heralds a change in expectations, if this could be a new way for Burnley and how that will go down.
No, but the last game I saw from them, they were still doing the nasty stuff. They're getting amongst people and winning the ball in areas where they can break and be straight into their final third. They were still doing that. So the Burnley fans will be happy with that, because to a certain extent they've still got the old stuff, but now they've got the stuff in the last third where you've got Cornet, you've got Dwight McNeil, who are expressing themselves as well. And so you're getting the best of both worlds. So it's something that whoever behind the scenes, like I know that Michael Jackson was doing the under 23s sounds weird, isn't it? Michael Jackson doing the under 23s at Burnley, but like that's what he was doing. So he's there watching. He's seen what's going on, and he might, with his own coaching acumen, what he's seen, he said, I'd probably do that with this and that. He's got the opportunity now, and he's doing it. And it seems to be working. Hopefully,
they're responding, aren't they?
Yeah, they very much so.
It happens quite often, though, that a sort of more attack-minded manager comes in and benefits from the organisation of the previous
correct.
Thinking like David Moyes to Roberto Martinez.
Leeds as well.
Arsene Wenger coming in at Arsenal and having that
Leeds
structure.
as well.
It leads that kind of real structure, and then somebody's a bit more free-flowing. And for a while, you get the perfect combination.
What you saw with the last goal, the goal against Everton, what Tony Adams, Steve Bold chips it over to Tony Adams, two centre-halves, set up that last goal, because what Arsene Wenger done, which we've seen what Mike Jackson's come in and done, he's got the same players, but he's improved them and given the confidence to go and play and do something. And so what happens with that is that you get confident doing that. And like talking about risks, the 7, 8s out of 10s, 8s, 9s out of 10s, that's all of a sudden comes, and then you get the confidence to go and do your own stuff.
But even though we think of Burnley as being this sort of team of kind of industry and energy and fight and spirit and all that, they're all like amazing at football. We forget that Ashley Barnes is a horrible kind of niggly player. It must be a nightmare to play against. But he is amazing at football, like compared to civilians.
Yes.
And there must come a point where even if you are like limited in the sense of like you're not quite Lionel Messi, you must feel a bit like, if your manager keeps telling you just to run the channel, but there must be part of you that thinks, I can do more, I can trap a ball.
Yes.
And I can play a pass.
Excellent in a rondo.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant like that. It's like, I remember obviously with George Graham and with Bruce Rioch, they want you to run the channels, close this down, do stuff, do all that really hard work stuff. Sometimes you find, oh my gosh, I'm nowhere near the box. Arsene Wenger came and said, just stay up here. Just stay up here. I only want you to work within the width of the 18-yard box.
You're delighted with that, weren't you?
Don't come back too deep.
That's what he was doing anyway.
It was like, it's like literally, honestly, it's like, I cannot believe that. And the game became easier because then all you focus on is doing that, working in that space, laying it off, and you're not a million miles away from the box because that's where you want to be. And that's what he's doing. He's probably giving them that kind of freedom. Go and play there where you want to play once you've done the job here.
It's interesting that their opponents, Watford, have almost done the opposite in that they were a little bit, chaotic's probably a bit strong, but a little bit more free-spirited. And then Roy Hodgson has come in to put organisation onto that, but it hasn't quite worked in the same way.
Simply because when Ranieri was there, he done literally the same thing. So we're talking about Burnley players hearing the same voice for 10 years. Watford players hearing a different voice every other year. So they
sometimes 2 or 3 times.
Exactly, Kel. So to get a bounce, how are you going to get a bounce when you're doing exactly the same things? You know that a manager's going to be going. You're actually sitting there thinking, well, he's going to be gone soon. Where's the bounce coming from? Where's the energy to give you the bounce coming from? Roy Hodgson's going to come in, and his mantra is to make sure they're actually playing, which is different from Burnley. They're actually playing to draw, whereas Burnley are playing to win. And you look.
Having said that, Burnley's draws might be what keeps them in the Premier League, should they stay up, the ones they got earlier in the season.
Yeah, but they're playing with more of a positivity.
Yeah.
Whereas you look at Watford, and yes, they've had some chances, but the way Roy Hodgson plays, he's not playing where he's going to get the opportunity, oh, this team's not on it today, let's attack them and beat them. He's still going to play to not concede. And there's no bounce going to happen at Watford simply because they're too used to it. They're too used to a new guy coming in, doing the same thing, and there's no energy for them to bounce.
I think you still have to have, regardless of all the things we've said today about squads and quality, you still have to have good players in order to play when they have the ball and do things well when they have the ball, have the knowledge to play the pass or know that the pass is on in order to make it work. And at the moment, the teams that are at the bottom of the table don't have the players to get themselves out of it.
Well, let's take a look at them then, and let's take a look at their remaining fixtures, because it's not particularly easy for any of them, and it's certainly not easy for Everton. They're the ones that I think possibly have cause for concern. They do have an extra game to be able to try and turn this around.
You know, Kelly, when you get to this stage and you look at those 4 clubs, Leeds, Burnley, Everton and Watford, me personally, having been in the relegation fight before with Coventry twice, you look at this squad of players and you think, right, who's willing to fight their way out of it? And look at Burnley. They've played great stuff, but they've fought their way. That's the dressing room I would want to be in, because they're all fighters.
And mentally, will they be in a positive frame of mind now?
Yes. And you look around the dressing room, who can I trust to go to the trenches with? It's not all about the great free kick. First, you have to get the blood, sweat and tears sorted first, and then the quality on top of that, and they seem to have the balance well.
I think what happens is at this stage, Kels, you get momentum. Burnley have got it at the moment, whereas Everton seem to be going the other way. They started very well against Liverpool the other day, but Burnley seem to have the momentum. So
Everton have got some decent quality, right?
Yes, they have, but they're not a team. Yes, we've seen them over the years just stave off relegation. But I just feel like they've got a bunch of players right now who's lacking confidence. They're good, but they're lacking confidence to give them the energy that they need to really blast through it. Can they sustain?
And there's also that pressure that if Everton play Chelsea on Sunday after Burnley have played Watford. If Burnley win that, Everton are 5 points off. And with 5-6 games of the season to go, that is the point at which a group of players who've never really been in a relegation battle, there won't be many in that squad who've experienced it. They're not like Burnley, they're not grizzled. They don't know, okay, look, we have to calm down and not let the pressure get onto us. You then have the Goodison Park factor, where an entire massive fan base will be fretting about the first relegation in 71 years. That does have a sort of uneasy aroma to it, that whole thing.
And that's that, look at their home games and think Goodison Park could be a real factor for Everton, but you just wonder because the way they played against Liverpool might be what it takes in order to get them out, but they won't be able to play that necessarily in front of their home fans. It is going to be an extremely tense run into the end of the season for all of the teams that we've mentioned. I tell you what, it doesn't really get any easier for Leeds. We didn't really talk about them in much seriousness, but they've got Manchester City at the weekend as well. Loads to look forward to this weekend, loads still to be decided across the course of the Premier League season. We are nearly there, 3.5 weeks till the final day of the season. Thank you to Dion, thank you to Rory, and we'll be back same time next week. Bye-bye.